The year is 1648. You are an ordinary sailor on the Santa Ana, one of the great galleons of the Spanish Empire. Your work begins at dawn, when you climb aboard with your fellow crew members. The massive vessel is already buzzing with activity as the officers direct the other sailors on their various tasks. It takes nearly 200 men to operate the Santa Ana, which is equipped with 60 cannons. Sailors are needed to steer the ship, trim the sails, haul the ropes and swab the decks. With such a large crew, social life aboard a ship was never dull. There were taverns, gambling halls, barbershops, latrines, even brothels. And if the ship is lucky enough not to have scurvy, the men will eat well, drinking wine with their meals. Food is plentiful, thanks to the store of dried meat, salted fish, fruit, cheese, and bread that the cooks prepare. In the evenings after the work is done, the sailors might play cards or dice, listen to music, or watch acrobatics and juggling acts. Sometimes they are treated to fireworks or fly a kite from the bowsprit, the pole that extends from the front of the ship. When the weather is good, the men can relax and enjoy the warm breezes and the sound of the waves. For sailors, life aboard a galleon is hard work, but it's also an adventure. They travel to far-off lands, explore new cultures and see wonders of the natural world. They are part of a crew that is essential to the prosperity of Spain. And while the conditions can be cramped and unsanitary, the pay is good and there is always the chance of plunder. The Santa Ana has just docked in Cadiz, Spain. It's one of the largest ports in Europe and home to one of the most powerful navies in the world. The sailors disembark and head to the Plaza de Cadiz, the main square in town, where they meet up with friends and family. The plaza is bustling with activity. Peddlers hawk their wares, children run through the crowds, and musicians play lively tunes. After some much-needed rest, the sailors rejoin their ship and set sail for the New World. The Santa Ana is one of many galleons that will carry goods from the Americas back to Spain. The Spanish have been exploring and conquering the New World for decades and have established colonies in Mexico, Central America, and South America. These colonies are rich in gold, silver, precious stones, and other valuable commodities that are in high demand in Europe. The galleons are responsible for transporting these goods back to Spain, where they can be sold for enormous profits. The voyage to the New World is long and dangerous, but the rewards are great. The sailors on board the Santa Ana know that they are playing an important role in the prosperity of their country. You are now a conquistador, one of the many explorers, soldiers, and fortune seekers sent by the Spanish crown to conquer and control the riches of the New World. Your mission, given to you directly by King Philip IV, is to find the legendary city of gold called El Dorado. You and your fellow conquistadors have heard stories of its unimaginable wealth and are eager to claim its riches for yourselves and the Spanish crown. Your journey is long and arduous, filled with many hardships. You face treacherous terrain, harsh weather conditions, and attacks from the native peoples who are fierce and determined to protect their land. But you press on, driven by the promise of untold riches. After many months of searching, you finally come across a settlement that seems to be made of gold. The sight before you is so dazzling that you are momentarily stunned. The buildings, statues, and other structures are all crafted from pure gold and glitter in the sunlight. It is everything that you have dreamed of and more. Over the next few days, you and your men explore the city, taking what you want and killing anyone who gets in your way. You feel like you have struck it rich and are on the verge of making your dreams come true. But as time goes on, you realize that this is not the El Dorado you had hoped for. The city is empty, its inhabitants vanished, and the only sounds are the wind and the birds. You are left with more questions than answers and a heavy sack of gold. What happened to the people who lived here? Where did they go? And what became of their great civilization? These questions will haunt you for the rest of your life. And although you have found the city of gold, you cannot help but feel a sense of loss and wonder. The year is 1708. The Spanish treasure fleet is anchored in the port of Cartagena, Colombia. Aboard the flagship, the Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes is a fortune in gold, silver and emeralds. The Galleon is massive, over 400 feet long and armed with 64 cannons. She is the pride of the Spanish Navy and the envy of the world. But unbeknownst to the crew, danger lurks beneath the surface. A British warship, the Worcester, is hiding nearby and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As the Spaniards unload their treasure, the Worcester strikes, beginning a battle between the two navies. Cannons roar, men fall, and the sea runs red with blood. But the Spaniards are outnumbered and outgunned, and soon they are forced to flee. The Worcester captures the Mercedes and her treasure, including many works of art looted from the indigenous peoples of the Americas. The British are jubilant, and the Spanish are devastated. The capture of the Mercedes is a major blow to the Spanish Empire, and a turning point in the war between the two nations. The loot from the Galleon helps to finance the War of the Spanish Succession and the rise of Great Britain as a world power. But the capture of the Mercedes is not the end of the story. Many of the works of art stolen from the Americas during the conquest are never recovered, and the indigenous peoples are never compensated for their loss. The capture of the Mercedes is a reminder of the brutal reality of the age of exploration and the lasting impact of colonialism. Now we find ourselves in the heart of the Spanish colonial palace. Here the air is thick with the scent of oranges and cinnamon as servants bearing trays of food and drink move silently through the halls. The walls are adorned with tapestries depicting scenes from the conquest of the Americas, and the floors are polished to a mirror shine. Sunlight streams through the windows, illuminating the rich colors of the furnishings and the fineness of the fabrics. The palace is a testament to the wealth and power of the Spanish Empire and a symbol of the opulence that was on display in the colonial world. The king and his court live in a world of luxury and privilege. They are surrounded by the finest things in life, and their every need is catered to by a large staff of servants. They are entertained by musicians, acrobats and dancers, and they dine on delicacies from the New World, such as chocolate, tomatoes and potatoes. However, there is a darker side to this world of luxury. The wealth of the Spanish colonial empire was built on the backs of slaves. Africans captured in tribal wars or born into slavery in Africa are brought to the Americas to work on plantations and in mines. They are treated like animals and denied basic human rights. The wealth and power of the Spanish colonial empire is built on a foundation of injustice and inequality. And the darkness of slavery is never far from the surface in the Spanish colonial palace. As our four tales draw to a close, let's return to the starting point. Once again, you are an ordinary sailor on the Santa Ana. The ship is sailing through calm seas and the crew is relaxed. You sit on the deck watching the sunset over the horizon. The sky is ablaze with color, and the gentle breeze carries the scent of salt and the sound of seagulls. The Santa Ana has been a microcosm of the world of the Spanish Empire, a melting pot of cultures and a hub of activity. You have seen the best and worst of humanity aboard this ship. You have witnessed the bravery and resilience of the sailors, the greed and brutality of the conquistadors, the tragic fate of the indigenous peoples, and the stark realities of slavery. But as you watch the sunset, you feel a sense of peace. The Santa Ana may be just one small part of the vast Spanish Empire, but it is a vital link in the chain that connects the old world to the new. The ship is more than just a vessel for transporting goods and people. It is a symbol of exploration, adventure, and the relentless drive for wealth and power that defined the age of discovery. We hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please remember to support us and leave a comment below with any thoughts you have. And if you're interested, there's more videos available to watch. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one. The year is 1642. England has been at civil war for 6 years, But Charles I is far from the most powerful monarch in Europe. That title belongs to Philip IV of Spain, who rules over an empire that stretches from North Africa to South America and much of Europe in between. If England wants to trade with any of those places, they need Spain's permission. And Charles then needs money. So despite the war raging on his home turf, he needs an ally. And he hopes that ally can be Spain. The king sends an ambassador to Madrid with a proposal. In exchange for peace and friendship between their two nations, England wants the exclusive right to sell enslaved Africans in Spain's American colonies. It's an offer Philip cannot refuse. Within a year, nearly 1,000 enslaved people are being shipped from West Africa to Spanish America, making this new slave trade legal and very profitable. For the next 3 decades, English pirates would raid Spanish ships carrying treasure back to Spain from the Americas. And as they captured more and more of these ships, a vicious cycle began. Spain needed to protect its gold and silver shipments arriving from its colonies, but it did not have enough ships to do so. So when word reached Madrid that England was profiting from piracy, the Spanish crown demanded compensation. But England refused. And so in 1655, when Spain declared war, England was caught off guard. When news arrived in London of Spain's declaration of war, Parliament was furious. It was ready for conflict. Privateers, licensed pirates, were immediately sent out to attack Spanish shipping. But the Crown's fleet was in disarray, built for battles on European rivers and not the open sea. Not to mention it had no navy. Fortunately, help was at hand. Enter Sir John Narborough, a privateer and slave trader who became the Admiral of England's navy. He led the Anglo-Dutch fleet to victory in 1652 and again in 1653. Unfortunately for Spain, he hated the Spanish with a passion. Now, given control of the Royal Navy, he wasted no time in making Spain pay for its crimes. On July 1655, Narborough and his fleet set sail to intercept the treasure fleet. The first ships to fall were the Conception and the Santiago. Narborough boarded both ships and found them packed with treasure chests filled with gold, silver, and emeralds. The crews of the captured ships were hanged, and the treasure was shipped back to England, where it was sold to fund the war. However, the greatest prize was yet to come. Near the island of Jamaica, Narrations spotted another galleon, one much larger than the others. This was the Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes, one of Spain's largest and most heavily armed galleons, carrying gold, silver and jewels worth an estimated $800 million in today's money. The battle lasted for hours, but in the end, the galleon was captured, the crew hanged and the cargo appropriated by the king. By the end of the year, the war was going well for the English and their privateers. They had crippled Spain's economy by attacking its treasure fleets. But in Madrid, King Philip was preparing a response. To combat the English raiders, he hired 2 legendary privateers, Francisco de Leon and his cousin Alonso de Guzman. Given the title of Viceroy of both Spain and Portugal, de Leon was to capture English ships in the Caribbean and bring them back to Spain. De Leon assembled a fleet of 300 ships and sailed to the Bahamas. Meanwhile, as the 2 fleets approached each other, one of Narborough's lieutenants intercepted a Spanish galleon. It was laden with treasure, including a huge haul of gold coins called pieces of 8. And so, confident in their invincibility, the English left their ships unguarded and went ashore. But they didn't know that their camp would be attacked that night by de Leon and his men. His soldiers ransacked the camp and reclaimed the gold. Then, de Leon sailed north to intercept the rest of the English fleet. Narborough and his fleet were anchored near Havana, Cuba. As de Leon approached, the English opened fire. The battle raged for hours. Finally, de Leon gave up the attack and retreated. But the English had suffered significant losses. One of their ships was destroyed, and the rest severely damaged. As they limped back to England, they knew they had met their match. But still, they had captured the Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes, and its treasure bought them another year of war. It was during this Second Anglo-Spanish War that a famous African galleon called the Luanda made its maiden voyage. Built in 1652, it was the largest Portuguese ship built in Africa and a symbol of Portugal's waning empire. The Luanda was to carry slaves from Angola to South America. But before it could set sail, the ship was seized by the British and renamed the Royal James. Under the command of privateer Thomas Custis, it was to join the Anglo-Spanish War. When the Luanda was sailing the seas, it was among the mightiest warships afloat. It had 5 decks, each equipped with guns and cannon. Altogether, it boasted 72 cannons capable of firing 12-pound cannonballs. Its crew numbered 600, including 300 soldiers. The Royal James would attack and plunder many Spanish galleons in the Caribbean and along the northern coast of South America. It even helped Custis's friend, Sir Henry Morgan, sack the Panama City. Meanwhile, back in England, King Charles I was having problems. The war with the Scots had become very unpopular. His supporters lost power in Parliament, and in 1649 he was forced to flee to Normandy. It seemed the war was going badly for everyone. Then something unexpected happened. England's navy defeated the combined Dutch and French fleet in the Battle of the Downs. The following year, England declared war on the Dutch Republic. Suddenly, England's fortunes were reversed, and its navy was able to focus on capturing Spanish treasure ships. With the Dutch now allies, Narborough and his fleet captured even more Spanish ships, and the spoils enriched England's treasury. Then in 1661, Charles II returned from exile and became the King of Bling. Not only was the monarchy restored, but so was England's prestige. The following year, England, France, and the Dutch Republic formed an alliance to destroy the Spanish Empire once and for all. By 1667, the Anglo-French fleet had grown to over 200 ships and 20,000 men. The goal was simple: seize treasure from Spain's treasure fleets. However, it wasn't easy. Spain was prepared. The governor of the Spanish West Indies ordered treasure shipments to be moved away from Havana to avoid capture by the English. The location of the treasure was kept secret from everyone except the governor. Even the Viceroy of Spain did not know where the gold and silver were stored, but this created a problem for the Spaniards. They had been paid in advance for the goods they were sending to Spain. If the payments weren't documented, merchants could claim they hadn't been paid and demand reimbursement. But without documentation, there was no proof the payments had been made. The solution was to establish a ledger. The governor of Havana would keep a written record of every payment made to the shippers. And just where he kept that ledger would be the key to everything. Now let me introduce you to Diego Rolando de Arce. Born in Madrid in 1621, Arce was a lawyer and colonial administrator. He served the Spanish crown in the West Indies for many years, including serving as the governor of Havana. While there, he learned the secrets of the hidden treasure and the ledger containing records of its value. But in 1668, he faced a problem. The galleon carrying the ledger had been captured by the Royal James. What was asked to do? He wrote to Viceroy Leon and explained the situation. The Viceroy was livid. He immediately wrote to London demanding the return of the ledger, but the English never replied. So in 1669, Arce decided to take matters into his own hands. He planned to stow away on the next ship to England, steal the ledger, and return to Havana. All he had to do was make his way to London undetected and get the document back to Spain. But things don't always go according to plan. Stay tuned to find out what happens next. And thank you for watching. In the gilded halls of Spanish palaces, imagine the flickering glow of candlelight on richly ornamented walls. A nobleman paces, impatience etched on his face. At the center of his world, a vast table laden with maps, charts, and quills, each representing fortunes won and lost on distant shores. This is the world of the Spanish crown, a realm where empires were built and lost in the balance of the tides. The nobleman is the treasurer or contador mayor de las Indias, responsible for one of the greatest logistical enterprises in history, ferrying untold riches from the New World to Spain. His task is made all the more daunting by one ship, or rather the lack of it, for the treasure fleet, a vital lifeline of the Spanish Empire, has failed to arrive. Where are the ships? What has become of the untold wealth aboard? Has it been lost to the waves, to pirates, or worse? The treasurer's pacing stops abruptly. The door opens, and a messenger stands framed in the entrance, his face pale, his words hushed. The galleons have been lost, all of them. In the crashing turmoil of the sea, over 400 souls perished, along with the riches of an empire. The year was 1502, and with the loss of the galleons, the Spanish treasury took a hit that shook the foundations of an empire. But how did such a disaster occur? How could so many vessels be lost at once? And what secrets do the depths hold about the fate of these ill-fated treasure fleets? To unravel this mystery, we must venture into the very heart of the Atlantic. 16th century Spain had a monopoly on trade between the Americas and Europe, a monopoly secured by a massive annual convoy known as the Treasure Fleet. This fleet, carrying gold, silver, jewels and other riches extracted from the New World, was a testament to Spain's power and wealth. At least it was supposed to be. The fleet would depart from ports in the Caribbean and head back to Spain, navigating the treacherous waters of the Atlantic Ocean. But these voyages were far from straightforward. Storms, unpredictable weather patterns, and the constant threat of piracy made every journey perilous. Under the weight of such risks, the Spanish crown implemented a strict regimen. Galleons were meticulously inspected, provisions were checked, and routes were studied. Every precaution was taken to ensure the safe arrival of these invaluable shipments. However, sometimes fate had other plans. The year was 1502, and the treasure fleet under the command of the experienced Alonso de Santa Cruz was fully prepared. The galleons were sturdy, the crew well-trained, and the cargo secured. Yet when the fleet sailed, little did they know that disaster awaited them. As they ventured into the open sea, the skies darkened and winds picked up, whipping the waves into a frenzy. Caught in the grip of a violent hurricane, the ships were tossed around like toys. Amidst the roaring tempest, some galleons foundered and sank, disappearing beneath the merciless waves. Others managed to stay afloat, battered but still sailing. Those that did survive emerged from the storm, only to find themselves at the mercy of a new peril. The surviving ships had endured the wrath of the elements, only to be met by the human predators, notorious privateers and buccaneers who preyed on merchant vessels. Among them was the formidable fleet of the English privateer Francis Drake. The ensuing battle was fierce. Cannons roared, cutlasses flashed, and the salty spray of the sea mingled with the coppery tang of blood. Despite the valiant efforts of the Spanish crew, the privateers proved to be relentless. One by one, the galleons fell, their holds spilling their precious contents into the sea. The battle concluded with a devastating loss for the Spanish, a humiliating defeat that shook the very core of Spain's maritime supremacy. The impact of this disaster was profound. The Spanish crown suffered a significant blow, losing not just the cargo, but also valuable ships and experienced sailors. It was a setback that threatened to destabilize the financial and political foundations of the empire. The streets of Spain, once vibrant with the opulence of distant lands, were cast in a shadow of loss. Merchants and investors who had placed their fortunes in the treasure fleet saw their dreams turn to dust. And as the full extent of the disaster became known, shockwaves rippled across the kingdom. The year 1502 marked a turning point. It signaled the beginning of Spain's decline as the dominant power in the Americas. Other European nations started to assert themselves, challenging Spain's control and reshaping the course of history. The loss of the treasure fleet exposed the vulnerabilities of the Spanish Empire, vulnerabilities that would be exploited by those eager to seize their dominance. The sinking of the galleons and the battle with the privateers led to profound changes in Spain's colonial policies. A series of reforms aimed at strengthening naval defenses, improving shipping practices, and diversifying trade routes were implemented. Additionally, efforts were made to protect the remaining treasure fleets through increased security measures and altered shipping patterns. However, despite these adjustments, the damage done to Spain's reputation as a maritime powerhouse persisted. The tale of the lost treasure fleet became a cautionary note in the annals of maritime history, a reminder of the unpredictable nature of the sea and the fragility of even the mightiest empires. Over the years, many expeditions were mounted to recover the sunken galleons, but the deep waters of the Atlantic and the passage of time made the task daunting. Many explorers came, but none returned with the fabled riches. The wrecks remained hidden beneath the waves, guarding their secrets close. Today, the story of the lost treasure fleet serves as a potent metaphor for the impermanence of fortune and the capricious nature of fate. It's a tale that continues to fascinate, reminding us of the hubris of empires and the enduring allure of lost treasures. As we reflect on this historic event, let us remember the bravery of those who dared to venture into the uncharted seas, the ambitions that drove them, and the tragic fates that befell them. Let their story be a lesson in the unpredictability of life and the enduring power of the ocean. So ends our tale of the lost galleons. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe. Your support means everything to us. Until next time, keep exploring. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. If you've been captivated by the tales of the ancients and eager to delve deeper into history, we invite you to explore our website. There, you'll find a trove of articles, timelines, and interactive features that bring history to life. Our website is your portal to a richer understanding of the past. Whether you're a student, a teacher, or simply a history enthusiast, we've got something for everyone. So why wait? Visit our website today and embark on an adventure through time. From the ruins of Tenochtitlan, let us return once more to the sea, the lifeline of empire and its greatest danger. Imagine standing again on the deck of a galleon, but this time the hold below you is heavy with silver bars, gold ornaments, and chests of precious gems. Around you are crates of cochineal dye, sacks of cacao, and bundles of tobacco. These fleets, known as the flotas, carried the riches of the Americas back to Spain, guarded carefully by squadrons of warships. The voyage was long but predictable. The ships would gather at Havana in Cuba, then sail north and east, catching the winds that carried them across the Atlantic to Seville or Cadiz. When the weather held, it was a slow but steady journey. But the greatest enemy was the sky itself. Hurricanes, those immense spirals of wind and water, often lay in wait. Imagine the air growing heavy, the sea darkening to a slate grey, and the sails above you beginning to strain. At first, there is a hush, an almost eerie calm. Then comes the sudden violence, winds screaming through the rigging, waves rising like walls, and rain falling so thick that the horizon vanishes entirely. The ship groans, ropes snap, barrels crash loose, and men cling to whatever they can grasp. Many did not survive. Entire fleets were scattered, broken apart, or swallowed whole by the ocean. In 1622, the famed Nuestra Señora de Atocha was lost off the coast of Florida, part of a convoy struck by a hurricane. For centuries, its treasure lay buried beneath the sand until divers uncovered it in the 20th century. Imagine their discovery. Silver bars crusted with coral, emeralds glimmering faintly after centuries in darkness, coins bearing the worn images of kings. The sea does not easily give up its secrets. In the Bahamas, in the Caribbean, along the coast of Florida, countless wrecks rest silently beneath the waves. Some are broken into scattered timbers, others lie more intact, their cannons still pointing out into the blue. The ocean floor has become their resting place, a museum visited only by fish and divers. For the sailors who went down with them, there was no such romance. A storm was terror itself, water flooding the lower decks, candles extinguished, the smell of wet wood and pitch thick in the air, the shouts of men drowned out by the roar of wind, and then silence when a ship broke apart and disappeared into the sea. The Spanish crown relied so heavily on this flow of wealth that entire systems of protection were built around it. Convoys were mandatory, ships rarely traveled alone. Ports in the Caribbean became staging points, their harbors crowded with masts, as officials checked cargo and prepared manifests. Yet no amount of planning could guarantee safety. Year after year, the sea claimed its toll. Today, the legacy of these wrecks lingers, not only in museums and treasure collections, but in the quiet fascination they hold. Divers describe the sensation of swimming through scattered cargo, of touching wood that last floated centuries ago. For some, it is a hunt for riches. For others, it is a communion with history, a reminder of fragile lives and fragile empires. And now we turn our attention from the vast riches of the conquistadors to the daily life of ordinary folk. We enter a humbler sort of house, perhaps barely more than a shack, but where life goes on in its simple routines. It might be a small village on the edge of a great city, a dusty town in the heart of a wild frontier, or a plantation hut nestled among the trees. The people here have little of the treasures that adorn the palaces of nobles. Still, their days are full, their needs are many, and their traditions both old and new. It's a morning much like any other. Roosters crow, dogs bark, children cry. The day stretches ahead, hot and long. A family stirs, preparing to greet it. Outside, an old woman kneels beside a rough clay hearth, tending a small fire. Her wrinkled face is framed by a shawl, her dark eyes watchful. Beside her, a pot of beans bubbles gently. Nearby, a wooden mortar and pestle wait patiently, ready to grind maize into the masa, the heart of tortillas. The aroma of roasting chilies mingles with the smoky scent of copal incense, a Mayan tradition carried on from ancient times. In a corner, a clay tripod holds a woven tray with tools of daily life. A small knife with a chipped stone blade, a water gourd, a reed mat for weaving. On the wall, a cross hangs beside a faded image of the Virgin Mary, a blend of old faith and new. Her son is stirring outside, readying himself for the day. A young boy, his loincloth simple but clean, runs with a dog at his heels, chasing butterflies among the prickly pear cactuses and agaves. His laughter echoes in the morning stillness. His sister, a bit older, grinds maize with a rhythmic slap of the pestle against the mortar. Her brow is furrowed in concentration. The boy watches, mesmerized by the dancing grains. Their mother, graceful despite her years, dips and twists over a low loom, weaving threads of scarlet, indigo and forest green into a vibrant cloth. Her nimble fingers fly, creating patterns both intricate and bold. The sky is vast above them, alive with the buzz of cicadas. Lizards dart between rocks. A hummingbird hovers, sipping nectar from a trumpet vine. Even in this humble abode, life unfolds like a tapestry, thread by thread, moment by moment. The old woman continues her whispered prayers, reaching out to touch the rough-hewn cross. Her fingers trace its worn surface, connecting her to generations past, their hopes, their struggles, their faith. The family gathers at last, taking their places on mats, woven with patterns that tell stories without words. They share the simple breakfast of tortillas and beans, their hands moving slowly, savoring each bite. Before them, the day waits, filled with tasks and challenges. The boy will help his father tend crops, His sister will gather wood and water. Their parents will weave and trade. All have their roles. The old woman watches them go, her gaze distant. She thinks of the Mayan ancestors who lived in these lands before the arrival of the Spanish. She sees their spirits all around, in the whispering leaves, in the flight of a hawk, in the very stones beneath her feet. The old ways are gone, but a part of her remains connected to them, a bridge between worlds. As the sun climbs higher, casting long shadows from the cacti, the family's day begins. For them, life goes on. But in the grand halls of the encomiendas, the plantations spread wide across the new world, a different drama unfolds. Here, the splendor of wealth collides with the brutal reality of conquest. Encomiendas were vast estates worked on the labor of thousands, producing crops like sugar, tobacco, coffee, cotton, and above all, cacao, the source of the prized drink, chocolate. The air is thick with the scent of orange blossoms and wood smoke, mingling with the sweet aroma of ripening fruit. Beyond the high walls of the hacienda, a sprawling world teems with activity. Fields stretch as far as the eye can see, their rich soil yielding abundant crops under the watchful gaze of overseers. In the distance, the rhythmic chant of workers echoes, their voices blending with the cries of exotic birds. Everywhere, the pulse of life quickens the pace. Inside the mansion, a nobleman reclines on a velvet cushion, a goblet of spiced wine in his hand. He is a man of the old world, his skin bronzed from the sun, his eyes sharp with ambition. Around him, tapestries depicting scenes of European nobility hang from the walls, a constant reminder of the grandeur he strives to emulate. Servants glide silently through the halls, their movements as graceful as the music, drifting from a hidden harp. The nobleman takes a sip, savoring the taste, and turns his gaze to a table laden with delicacies. There, ripe fruits from distant lands and freshly caught fish from the nearby coast sit alongside succulent meats and fine cheeses. His gaze lingers on a dish of cacao, the bitter drink that holds a special allure. It is a symbol of his wealth and power, a luxury few can afford. But even as he indulges in the comforts of his estate, the sounds of the outside world filter through the thick walls. The murmur of discontent, the clash of cultures, the echoes of a changing world. The nobleman knows that his world is built on the labor of thousands, on the backbreaking work of those who toil under the relentless sun, far from the cool shadows of his mansion. The cacao he sips is made from beans harvested by hands he has never seen. The very fabric of his life is woven with threads of human endeavor that he cannot see, but that he relies upon completely. Outside, the sun climbs higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the fields. The workers continue their chant, their bodies swaying in unison with the crops. They are a mix of indigenous peoples, some brought here under duress, others who have adapted to the rhythms of the new world. Among them, the indigenous foreman, a man of mixed heritage, moves with quiet authority. His knowledge of the land and its people makes him an essential link between the encomiendas and the world it controls. Despite the hardships they face, the workers carry on, driven by the need to survive in a world that is rapidly changing. The nobleman watches them, a sense of unease settling in his chest. He knows that their world is on the brink of something new, something he cannot fully comprehend, but that threatens to shake the foundations of his life. As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, the nobleman retreats to his private chambers. Here, the opulence of his world is on full display. Rich fabrics drape the walls and furnishings, and the very air seems heavy with the scent of exotic spices. But even in this sanctuary, the shadow of the outside world creeps in. The soft murmur of voices carries through the open window, carrying news of unrest, of whispers of rebellion, of a world that is no longer content to live in the shadows. The nobleman sits alone, the weight of his world pressing down on him. The sound of drums resonates through the night, echoing the rhythm of a world that refuses to be silenced. The music drifts in, carrying with it the promise of change, the hope of a new dawn. The nobleman listens, caught between the fading echoes of the old world and the uncertain strains of the new. And as the night deepens, the question hangs heavy in the air. Will this world of wealth and privilege endure, or is it destined to fade with the setting sun? For more historical tales, visit our channel. Hello, and welcome aboard. From the storms and salt spray of the sea, let us walk inland, through wide cobblestone streets lined with balconies and shaded courtyards. Imagine the city of Mexico in the 17th century, its markets bustling with goods from across the empire. Silk from Asia, silver from Peru, spices from the Caribbean, and European books and furniture all converging in a single place. Rising above it all is the Viceroy's palace, its walls broad and imposing, its great doors carved with careful detail. Step inside. The air is cooler, shaded from the sun by thick walls of stone. The smell of wax from polished floors lingers faintly, mingling with incense that drifts softly from a nearby chapel. Here, life is measured not by storms or hunger, but by ceremony and display. The Viceroy, appointed directly by the King of Spain, ruled vast territories stretching across the Americas. His word carried authority equal to royalty itself, and his household reflected that grandeur. The rhythm of his life was one of endless ritual. Each morning began with audiences, petitions brought by merchants, priests, or nobles, presented in long formal sessions. Courtiers whispered at the edges of grand chambers, their footsteps softened by tapestries and woven carpets. The air was never quiet for long. The rustle of silk garments, the clicking of rosary beads, and the steady murmur of voices filled the palace corridors. Meals, too, were occasions of spectacle. Imagine long tables set with silver dishes, bowls of steaming maize, roasted meats, exotic fruits, and wines brought from Spain. Servants moved quietly between the guests, their footsteps deliberate, their hands steady. Outside, the common people survived on beans, maize, and tortillas, often with little else. The contrast was sharp. While sailors gnawed hard biscuits at sea and peasants lived on humble fare, here the elite dined in abundance beneath painted ceilings. Beyond dining and politics, there were ceremonies. The palace was a stage for festivals, processions, and religious observances. Musicians played lutes and viols, their soft melodies echoing through courtyards. Priests blessed halls with holy water, their Latin chants reverberating against stone walls. Each event was carefully designed to project authority, to remind everyone, from the city's merchants to its poorest laborers, that power flowed directly from crown to viceroy. Yet even in this grandeur, there was a quiet unease. The walls of the palace looked out upon a city alive with contrasts. Noble families carried in litters, while indigenous workers toiled in markets, gilded carriages rolling down avenues while beggars sat in the shadows. Power was immense, but it was never entirely secure. Whispers of unrest, of resistance, of famine or disease always lurked just beyond the palace gates. As evening fell, the palace would settle into a quieter rhythm. Candles flickered in iron sconces, shadows stretched along vaulted ceilings, and the sounds of the city softened into the night. Imagine yourself walking slowly through those halls, the cool stone beneath your hands, the smell of candle smoke lingering, the silence broken only by the soft footsteps of a passing servant. Life here was one of luxury and authority. Yet it was also a life lived at a careful distance from the storms of the sea and the struggles of ordinary people. And so our tale draws to a close, much like the slow fading of light on the horizon as the sun dips below the waves. We started our journey on the open sea, where the very survival depended on taming the wind and waves. Then we ventured deep into the heart of the empire, where gold and silver gleamed and the pulse of trade echoed in the markets. We've explored the rugged path of a sailor, the perilous quest for lost treasures, and finally, the solemn rituals of those who held immense power. Through it all, we've witnessed the spirit of exploration, the thrill of discovery, and the relentless march of fortune. Now, as we stand at the twilight of our adventure, let us reflect on the lessons the sea has taught us. Much like the ocean itself, life is full of unexpected turns and hidden depths. It's a vast expanse that tests our limits and rewards our courage. Just as sailors navigate by the stars, we too can find our way through life's storms by setting our own guiding stars. Whether it's honesty, kindness, or perseverance, these stars can light our path, even in the darkest of nights. Remember the resilience of a sailor who faced the tempest head-on, finding strength in the face of adversity. Let it be a reminder that challenges are not meant to break us, but to shape us into better versions of ourselves. And lastly, cherish the moments of joy and camaraderie, the laughter shared among crew members after a hard day's work, the warmth of a fire on a cold night, the taste of a simple meal shared with friends. For in these moments we discover the true richness of life. The sea has a way of humbling even the most seasoned of sailors. It reminds us that no matter how much experience we gain, there's always something new to learn, some uncharted waters to explore. It encourages us to remain curious, to keep our minds open, and to embrace the unknown with a sense of wonder. The sea is a constant teacher, offering wisdom to those who are willing to listen. One of the most profound lessons the sea imparts is the importance of community. On a ship, each member of the crew has a role to play, and their success depends on their ability to work together. It teaches us that true strength lies not in individual brilliance, but in unity and cooperation. So as we come to the end of our journey together, let us carry these lessons with us, not just as souvenirs of an adventure, but as guiding principles in our everyday lives. Let the vastness of the ocean inspire our dreams, its challenges our resilience, and its beauty our appreciation for the world around us. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. May your own journeys be filled with the same spirit of exploration, resilience, and camaraderie that we've discovered on the high seas. Until our next adventure together, stay curious, stay kind, and remember the sea keeps her secrets close, but she offers her lessons to those who sail her stormy seas. This is the last episode of our season. We hope you enjoyed this journey through time and space. To keep the adventure alive, we'd like to invite you to join our community. Become a member on our website, follow us on social media, or sign up for our newsletter. Thank you for watching. Our long voyage comes to an end. We began upon the deck of a galleon where sailors endured hunger, sickness, and storms. We walked beside Cortes into the heart of Tenochtitlan, where an empire rose and fell. We drifted over the ocean floor among the silent wrecks of treasure ships, their riches scattered like forgotten offerings. And we entered the shaded halls of a viceroy's palace, where power and ceremony shaped the rhythm of colonial life. Each of these worlds was part of the same great story, the Spanish Empire at sea and on land, held together by courage, ambition, and no small amount of suffering. The sailors, the conquistadors, the rulers in their palaces, all lived within the same fragile chain of cause and consequence, tied together by ships and storms, gold and hunger, faith and fear. But for us, these are only memories. The creak of the galleon's timbers has faded into silence. The crowded markets of Tenochtitlan exist only in imagination. The hurricanes that swallowed fleets centuries ago are gone, leaving only quiet reefs. The palaces remain, but their corridors echo now with footsteps of visitors, not rulers. Tonight, as you listen, you rest in a world far removed from theirs. No storm rocks your bed, no hunger gnaws at your stomach, no crown or empire demands your service. You are safe, comfortable and warm. Imagine the slow rhythm of the sea, not as terror, but as a lullaby. The gentle rise and fall of the waves, steady, eternal, soft. Imagine the glow of candlelight in a quiet palace chamber, the sound of voices fading into silence. Let these images drift further and further away until they dissolve entirely. The past is vast, and its struggles are behind us. All that remains is calm. Breathe slowly, allow the weight of the day to slip away, and let sleep take you as gently as a ship carried across still waters. Good night. We hope you enjoyed learning about the history of the Spanish Empire with us. But now we have a question for you. What do you think? How does the experience of creating the series change the way you view the Spanish Empire? Has it changed at all? What did you find most interesting? And what surprised you the most? Please share your thoughts with us in the comments. Behind every great empire lies a tangled web of power, conquest, and cultural exchange. The Spanish Empire was a world unto itself, spanning vast distances and touching countless lives. To understand its full scope, we must look beyond the familiar tales of conquistadors and colonies. When we think of the Spanish Empire, we often picture fierce warriors seizing gold and glory in the New World. Yet beneath this surface, a complex network of trade and diplomacy flourished. The flow of goods and ideas between continents reshaped economies, challenged beliefs, and sparked cultural transformations. We see this in the fusion of cultures that occurred when Europeans encountered indigenous populations in the Americas. It wasn't just a clash of civilizations, but a blending. European goods like textiles and metalwork were traded for indigenous luxuries such as feathers and furs, and the fusion of African, European, and indigenous labor created a unique cultural dynamic. The introduction of new crops like potatoes and tomatoes to the Old World would transform European diets and even help fuel its population growth. This exchange of goods and people had profound effects on both sides of the Atlantic. While the impact on indigenous populations was devastating due to diseases brought from Europe and the brutal realities of colonization, the exchange of goods and ideas also left a lasting legacy. It led to significant changes in how resources were used and wealth was generated. In both the Old World and the New World, the Spanish Empire played a pivotal role in shaping the course of global history. Its influence extended far beyond the treasures of the Incas or the Aztec tribute demanded by Montezuma. It was a web of interactions, innovations, and exchanges that continue to resonate today. The grandeur of the Spanish Empire was built on the backs of those who toiled in the fields and forges of its far-flung territories. The empire's reach extended from the icy peaks of the northern colonies to the heart of the silver mines, each region contributing its unique challenges and rewards. Life for those working the silver mines was particularly harsh. The unforgiving terrain of the mountains was matched only by the brutality of the labor demanded. Miners labored deep underground in suffocating darkness, battling poisonous fumes and the ever-present risk of cave-ins. The weight of the empire's expectations pressed heavily on them, as every swing of their pickaxe was a swing towards the riches that would sustain the empire's splendor. But their efforts were not without consequence. Mercury, used in the extraction process, seeped into the land and water, leaving a toxic legacy that poisoned the environment and the bodies of those who worked there. Their stories, though often overlooked, are a reminder of the human cost of empire. It was a cost measured not in gold, but in sweat, blood, and dreams deferred. These men were not just cogs in the imperial machine, but individuals with hopes and aspirations. Their lives, though arduous and filled with sacrifice, were also filled with moments of beauty, camaraderie, and quiet acts of resistance. As the sun sets on another day in the grand narrative of the Spanish Empire, We find ourselves amidst the bustling trade of Portobello, a bustling hub of commerce and culture. Here, the goods of the New World, from precious metals to exotic spices, mingled with those from Africa and Asia. The harbour teemed with activity as merchants, sailors and adventurers from diverse corners of the world came together to buy and sell their wares. In this melting pot of cultures, we meet Catalina de Erauso, a woman who defied the boundaries of her time. Disguised as a man, she ventured into a world dominated by men, proving that her spirit could conquer the limitations placed upon her by society. Her story, though remarkable, was not an isolated one. The streets of Portobello were also home to many other individuals who dared to challenge societal norms, whether through their choice of profession or their personal relationships. They navigated a world where societal expectations were fluid and personal choices were often the only way to forge one's path. In the heart of Portobello, we encounter the vibrant San Lorenzo market, a riot of colors and aromas. It was a place where indigenous foods like maize and chili peppers sat alongside African and Asian imports. Amidst the clamor of vendors and the curious gaze of travelers, we find Francisco Hernandez de Cordoba, an explorer driven by insatiable curiosity. His thirst for knowledge led him on daring expeditions into uncharted territories. In the bustling marketplace, we witness the collision of different cultures, the exchange of ideas, and the fusion of traditions that characterized the Spanish Empire. It was a microcosm of the larger world created by this vast web of trade and conquest. The energy of Portobello captures the essence of the era. There was a constant hum of activity, a sense of possibility, and the promise of adventure around every corner. It was a place where fortunes were made and dreams took flight, all under the watchful gaze of the setting sun. As we explore the intricate tapestry of the Spanish Empire, we must turn our attention to the Viceroy's palace, a seat of power and a stage for the drama of imperial life. Within its opulent walls, we delve into the world of viceroys, men who held immense power yet were also trapped by the complexities of ruling a far-flung empire. The viceroys, appointed by the Spanish crown, were responsible for maintaining order, extracting wealth, and upholding the empire's interests. They resided in magnificent palaces that served as both homes and symbols of royal authority. However, their lives were not without challenges. Balancing the interests of the crown, the local populations, and the ever-present threat of rivals required a delicate touch. The Viceroy's court was a microcosm of the empire itself, a blend of cultures and a melting pot of ambitions. Amidst the intrigues and rivalries, we find Alonso de Guzman, a young nobleman eager to prove himself. Arriving at the Viceroy's court, he is thrust into a world of lavish ceremonies, political machinations, and the constant pressure of upholding his noble lineage. His journey through the courtly life reveals the opulence and the rigid etiquette that defined the era. The Viceroy's palace was more than just a residence. It was a hub of power, a theatre of social life, and a testament to the grandeur of the Spanish Empire. Within its hallowed halls, we see the complexities of imperial rule, the allure of courtly life, and the struggles of those who sought to navigate its treacherous waters. To truly understand the Spanish Empire, we must venture into the vast expanse of the sea, where the fate of empires was often decided. On the rolling waves, the mighty galleons that crisscrossed the Atlantic were more than just vessels of trade and conquest. They were floating cities carrying a microcosm of the empire's diversity. Sailors from diverse backgrounds, from weathered veterans to young adventurers, manned these vessels, braving the perils of the sea under the watchful eye of the stern captains. Among them was Alonso de Chavez, a sailor whose journey on a galleon becomes our window into the daily life aboard these majestic ships. Life on board a galleon was a perilous endeavor. Storms could toss the mighty ships like toys, mutinies threatened to erupt, and disease could decimate the crew. Alonso and his fellow sailors lived in close quarters, their days filled with the rhythmic routine of the seven seas. Yet amidst the hardships, there were moments of joy, camaraderie forged in the face of danger, and the thrill of discovery as they explored new lands. But it wasn't just the natural elements they contended with. Privateers and pirates lurked on the horizon, eager to plunder the riches that these ships carried. The constant threat of attack added a layer of tension to every voyage, turning every sunset into a potential battle. The vastness of the ocean mirrored the vastness of the empire itself, connecting distant corners and reminding those on board of their place within a larger, intricate web. From the bustling ports of Spain to the exotic shores of the Americas, each port was a new chapter in their journey. The sailors of the galleons were not merely transporters of goods, but ambassadors of an empire, bearing witness to its reach and its resilience. Their stories, though often overlooked, are an essential part of the rich tapestry that was the Spanish Empire.